when there's no free beer, so sorry about it. I'll try to keep this as entertaining as I can. This event keeps growing every year. Raise your hand if you haven't seen me speak, please. Oh, wow. That's awesome. So I try to do this. I'm not a college professor. I'm not here to lecture. I'm here to talk. So if you have anything you want to say, please raise your hand. It's a dialogue. We're all among friends here, right? My name's Phil Grimes. I am a security consultant with Sekuritee. Adrian has a question. F5, no. Sorry, can't do that. Thank you. So I'm Phil Grimes. I'm a security consultant with Sekuritee. That's a fancy way of saying that I break stuff. I get to spend a lot of my time destroying the things that you hold true and dear to your hearts. So thanks for that opportunity. We're going to talk today about physical penetration testing. I've had the fortune to do a lot of really fun stuff breaking into some of the buildings that you all protect. And I want to give you some stories about that, hopefully get some of your feedback about what you would do if you were in these people's shoes. How would you stop me? And eventually, by the end of the talk, I'm going to hopefully send you all back to work thinking a little bit differently about the 3 Gs of business, the guards, guns, and gates that we all rely on, really, to protect us. So that's my spiel today. Why should you listen to me? Who am I? Well, I'm a hacker. And the reason that I stress this term so much is because I feel that it has been abused and misappropriated over the past 20 or 30 years. I do a lot of things that force me to understand systems. I've been a martial artist since I was 5 years old. I've studied several different styles. And that really gets you in the mindset not only of self-discipline and understanding what you are capable of, but also understanding in the case of an attack, how does that attacker come at you? What can you do to defend yourself? Understanding the limitations and capabilities, not only of yourself, but of the attacker. I'm actually have pirate blood running through my veins. My sister recently did the Ancestry.com research, and we've got some English pirate blood from like the 1580s, which I think is super cool. I'm also a biker, and if that doesn't have you manipulating the social system in life, I can't tell you what will. Most of the time when I walk in, people see 6.5 feet, 285 pounds of big ugly, and they're like, oh my God, if the world's going to end. But trying to understand, how to engage people and make them not be afraid, or when I want them to, make them be very afraid, right? Manipulating that system. Now, who has kids? Yeah, most of you. Everybody in here with kids, being a parent is a lifelong social engineering experiment, right? So, that if that's not hacking a system to itself or being hacked, as the case may be, depending on how your kids are, let me tell you, my daughters are absolutely terrible with it. They've got dad wrapped around their finger, and they sure know it. But all of these things together, I wear all these different hats in life, and that makes me hack. I love to break stuff. I love to understand how things work and to make it work to my advantage. And today we're going to focus simply on the physical aspect. What does that look like when a bad guy is trying to get past your guards? When he's not afraid of the guns, because I carry Kevlar with me and I shoot back. Who's not afraid of climbing over a gate? I scale barbed wire all the time and I love it. So we're talking about that stuff. And lastly, if you don't know, I am the Grape Ape on Twitter. I tweet more than I work, and I'm a bit of a workaholic. So please, if you like what you're hearing, or if you wish you had a tomato you could throw at me today, reach out and say something. So any history buffs? World War? Yeah, a few. Anybody? So the Maginot Line, right? The Maginot Line was created after World War I because the French realized the benefits of static defense. And for the longest time in business culture, that's kind of where we've been, right? We're so comfortable with static defense, and we're so complacent with thinking that what works over here is going to work the same way over here. Well, we found out as World War II began that that's not necessarily the case. So the Maginot Line was a wonder of the world at the time. It was fantastic. It was built and able to house thousands of soldiers. Full accommodations. We had tank embankments, machine gun turrets. You had dignitaries from all over the world coming to France to see this awesome new defense. But then once the cookie started to crumble, you can see the timeline, how quickly, from the moment there was duress to the moment that the Germans realized, hey, we can just kind of go down here to Switzerland through the Alps and see you guys. And we have a matter of weeks before we start to see the fall of France. And these things are terrible. The reason that this is important for us to understand is that this concept, these blinders that we're wearing, apply to so many different parts of life. We're talking about real war, and we're talking about the war of business. World War III, which each one of us sitting in here today is fighting. If I'm not trying to steal your data directly, I'm trying to get in somewhere where I can get my hands on it. And this is what we're doing. So how do we stop that? Well, we have the guards, guns, and gates. We put a fence around our building. We put a guy with a gun at the front, and we tell him to look scary, and if somebody comes, send them on their way. But all too often, these guards are falling asleep, or they get complacent in their jobs. I'm making $8 an hour. I'm seeing the same faces. I'm reading Time magazine. I don't really care necessarily what I'm protecting. So we have to start here. We have to start with the people, with the protections, with not only our real guards, but realizing our entire user base, all of our employees, are our assets. That's our intrusion detection system. These are the kind of things that we need to start thinking about, because if you had a chance to catch the talk earlier, it might have been yesterday, the security awareness stuff. If you don't have that program, we need to get one. And work with a security partner that's willing to help you grow it and test it holistically from a point to where you can see the metrics of improvement, or you have a way to gauge your weaknesses. And a lot of times, you know, we get that we want to do these social engineering assessments, or I want a physical penetration test, but don't talk to my employees. What do you mean? How are we supposed to do this if we can't talk to the people that are actually there? The problem is that everybody knows. People want to help, right? People want to do good things, and if you come to them in need, most of the time, somebody's going to give you $1. They're going to open the door. I mean, I've walked right in the front door of some places with somebody, I'm holding a dozen donuts, and they'll hold the door and let you walk right on in. Like, gee, thanks, I appreciate it. More on that later. All right, so now we're going to start story time. Now we're going to laugh a little bit. Hope you're ready for some fun today. I hope you find it as, well, it's almost sad. I don't know if it's really amusing or not. I got to do an assessment recently. This was a retest on an entity from critical infrastructure sector. And they were all gung-ho about it. Like, man, the last time you were here, we learned so much. Owned. We didn't know that we had so many problems. We got to fix it all. Come on back in and show us. You know, we want to show you the improvement. So I walked in, get to know the people, sit down, we start talking over the scope of work and everything, and they were all for it. Please, we want you to break us. We want to know what we can do to truly keep you out. So I had lockpicks. I had different outfits and uniforms. I was ready to be a cop. I was ready to be the janitor. We were ready to go. But the very first day when we walk in, the guy's telling me, man, we learned so much, because the place that you broke us last time, they had this one workstation in their emergency room, which happened to be their lunchroom and their training room, by the way. So they have this workstation, Windows XP workstation, just sitting here. And that's how we got in. We were able to jump from that point all the way into SCADA, and that was essentially their downfall. So they said, but we learned. We got this awesome desk, man. This thing is so cool. It bolts to the wall. It bolts to the floor. It's got a roll top. It's like Kevlar, bulletproof, and all this stuff. It looks pretty legit. Like, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, all right, sure, there's a 5-pin security lock on there. We can probably get through that pretty quickly. But let's look and see. So I start snooping around. At the far end there, the little thing mounted to it, that's a little CB, so it was really no good. But isn't that a printer? That's a printer connected by Cat5 to the machine that this thing's protecting. So I turned around, smiled at the guy, just looking. I'm like, sorry, dude, game over. But let's pretend that this thing's not here. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Let's say somebody just forgot that printer isn't really here. But then I look just under where the keyboard sits, and there's this huge gaping hole. And just down here, sits the tower for this machine. So talk about a false sense of security. You're paying thousands of dollars. You've got this thing bolted down to absolutely everything. And we can't truly value the security because even my big paws can fit down through there. It took me less than a minute. I mean, the little red cable that you see, that's the Cat5 for their critical line. So we're giving ourselves a false sense of security by thinking things like this work, and it doesn't take much time at all to really poke holes in that sense and make you see there really is a vulnerability. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? We need to be able to not only to accept criticism when somebody comes in and shows us what we've done wrong, but we have to be able to stand back and build a rational defense around it. Not to just say, bolt everything to the floor, but the bigger problem is, why is there a critical piece of our system sitting in a common area? How do you call this your emergency room when I'm sitting here destroying your network right next to Mary Jo from HR while she's chewing down her lunch? Okay? We have to be thinking about these things to make sure that we're able to get away from the standard controls that everybody thinks. I got antivirus. We use RFID. We're good to go. My computer locks when I get up and walk away for more than 3 minutes. You know? The standard stuff that works in some organizations may not work for all. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that doing the basics is important, right? We all need to still have that fundamental baseline of doing the right thing. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we all have to have, complete darknets. Like we're talking here, critical infrastructure, you have the completely separated environments versus that may not be something necessary for healthcare or something like that. But just having a rational plan for addressing the vulnerabilities that are identified by threat modeling and looking at your organization from a rational standpoint. These guys had no clue. They thought that we weren't going to, I'm a big guy, but I'll get down on my knees to look for a hole in something. No problem at all. And they just get so comfortable with only knowing the little bit that they get because, we all work our day. You're drinking from the fire hose, shoveling that endless pile. You may not take time to step out of your normal role and kind of understand the different controls that interact with your functions. Now, if we do that as the security people, what do our boots on the ground do? What do the actual troops do? They're so blinded just by trying to make sure that they're able to meet their business need that sometimes they don't necessarily think, I put the camera in the wrong place. So another fun story here. A different opportunity we got to go test. This was for healthcare. And these people, we got RFID, we're covered. We badge in, we badge out, we've got cameras, we've got guards. You have to sign in to park your car on our parking lot. We're safe, we're good, come get us. Well, I was just going to pick an external lock and walk in the side building because they have like an outside door into a storage room. It's not alarmed. It's not armed. I checked it out when we walked through. I could have done this, but I wanted to give them a chance. So we went to the thrift store nearby, found one of their polo shirts, thankfully. Doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it usually works. And I decided, I'm going to print off some asset tags and pretend like I work here. Did a little bit of LinkedIn research, and I was able to find a few names to drop to the right people when I walked in. Had these asset tags, went and bought myself a $1 clipboard from Walmart, had my pen. I walked in, I said, hi, my name's Phil. I'm new with the IT department, and my first task is to go around to all the machines and check these asset tags. If you don't have one, I need to put it on for you. Oh, sure, come on back. We're right here, right this way. Here's the manager's workstation, and here's this printer, and here's... Not a question, no ID, didn't ask for a business card. I didn't even have to drop a name. I just told her who I was, and here you go.
Iron Geek here. Unfortunately, we had a little technical problem here, but you can get more of his greatness very shortly. The audio should resume in a few seconds. Sorry for the problems.
if it works. And it did. Because people just don't know. We don't spend the time with them to make them question authority or to question somebody who says they are. You don't know who I am. Make me show some ID. Make me show a business card. Granted, I carry a stack of about 50 different companies with me at any time, but if you're lucky, I might give you the right one. Taking the time to build on these assets, the assets they really are, even though I hate that word, with these people helps to make them want to sit down and say, maybe you should show me a photo ID. Maybe your boss might have sent an email to my boss to let us know that this was happening. I mean, there's a plethora of things. Anybody what would you do? Anybody got a suggestion? Y'all been awful quiet, and it's not Friday, so come on now. Nothing? You wouldn't do anything? You'd let me walk right in your door? My badge? Okay, awesome. So work badge? Okay, but I'm brand new. I don't have one. I haven't gotten it yet. So my boss is going to call you. What number can I have him call you at? I'm going to have my boss call you and let you know it's cool for you to let me in. Okay. Well, what number can I have him call your boss? That's good, though. Good. So at least you're thinking about things to question, correlate, multiple forms of ID. Making them sign something. And even then, God forbid, please don't turn me loose by myself. Right? Yeah, you see it. Believe it or not, this picture is real from an assessment I did. Yes. I'm sorry? No, that'd be a zip tie. Yeah, that'd be a zip tie. Common defense does not work in a modern attack scenario. Okay? Antivirus? Who would trust your antivirus in just a purely natural technical attack these days? Right? What's an alternative there? Having people who are operating with the components of your business that understand what normal looks like, that are able to identify. And once you've got that, now we've got our IDS set up, right? We've got our rule set built. They know what normal looks like, and they know when things aren't normal. But then to be able to say something, stand up and say something, ring the bell, blow the whistle, say something doesn't look right here. Because I'd rather waste a few cycles of a business day talking to you about why this is okay and educating, retuning the rules, so to speak, as opposed to you say nothing, we're dealing with a breach, and now our reputation's destroyed. Detrimental to business, detrimental to security, and the thing is, I'm not just here to make a paycheck. I'm here because I want to make the world better. I want to make things like this not happen. So when you've got some big ugly like me trying to get in your door, you're asking for that ID. You want me to talk to your boss or for your boss to talk to mine. And not to just think that we can set it and forget it. This is a full-time job. We all constantly have to be working to tune and to make it better. So the flip side of that coin, right? Excuse me, I've been amped up on this stuff all day. I can't stop now. The other side of that coin is we can't do it by ourselves, okay? Most of you, your focus is keeping the business going, making sure that the wheels don't stop, that the brakes don't lock up. It's hard for you to be able to get that overall objective picture, which is why it's important to find someone who you can trust and work with, and this isn't a sales call, I don't care if you go with me or anybody else, but to have someone that you know you can trust and rely on to be able to evaluate your current posture, to be able to test it, again with those two nasty R words, rationally and relatively, and then to be able to gauge progress and give metrics by which you can improve that posture. And it has to be an ongoing thing. Continual assessments. Continual review of what we've done and continual change of what our policies and programs look like. That's the way we're going to be able to get rid of the zip ties. Quit putting Band-Aids on bullet wounds, right? We need to really start thinking, and the last time I was in this room, I was talking a little bit about mentorship and bringing kids up. I've had several of you today talk to me about this, and bringing kids up from, even as early as the middle school level to teach them what security is and to start ingraining security into the culture, because then, even if they aren't all practitioners, we may have managers come about through this. But to be able to foster good security habits into the next generations so that the people who replace us aren't going to be fighting the managerial fight that we are facing. They don't have to keep dealing with that uphill battle because that next, CISO or CEO is going to say, well, I remember from back in school, you're not supposed to do that. And hopefully, eventually, am I naive to think I can change the world? I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Okay, so this one's my favorite. Anytime Homer makes an appearance in the slides, that's a good day. So we were back on another critical infrastructure site, and the goal was to get into areas of transmission and to get past electrified fences, to get through the gate with the guard shack, to get into the building. And my flag, as it were, the goal is just to get onto a workstation and send an email. Because if you can type keys on the workstation, they pretty much know that the walls will come crumbling down. So my first thought was to jump the fence, because who doesn't like to channel their inner Michael Weston and live out a Burno this episode every once in a while, right? So I'm thinking like, hey, let's do the whole card, like the floor mat, we'll jump the fence. We got this. Well, I got burned. Somebody saw me. I'm kind of big to hide, so it was a little difficult. So I went back to the hotel, and we regrouped a little bit, and searching around on Google, and I found, for some reason, somebody put a picture of a visitor's badge on Google. Or on somewhere. I don't know where it was. So I printed this off. I'm sitting in the hotel, and I'm like, well, how can I use this? And go down into the lobby of the hotel, and they have their little workstations in the business center. So I used Microsoft Paint, and I hacked the crap out of this badge. I mean, it was bad. I used a driver's license photo of me when I had like much longer hair, much shorter beard. I couldn't get the font to quite match up right. I couldn't get the alignment. I mean, it was crap. It was horrible. I printed this thing off in the business center. It was too long. I couldn't get it to fit right. So I had to like fold it, do some origami stuff to get it to fit in the card. I mean, the total hack job. Total, terrible. But I took it, put it on my belt, walked in like I knew the place, walked right over to their little cafeteria, bought myself a sandwich. So on these visitors badges, they have barcodes, and I'm thinking, all right, I'll just scan the barcode. Sure, we'll get right in, no problem. Well, fortunately, at least they were doing that right. The barcode didn't work. I went to tap it against the thing, and it did it again. And the guard was like looking at me, and I'm like, man, can you open this? I don't know why it's not working. It worked earlier. He said, have you signed in today? Well, I signed in like earlier, 2 months ago, last time I was here. He said, let me see your badge. Crap. So I walk over and I give him my badge. He's holding this thing. Now, they print the real visitors badges on the plastic cards. Like, it's a real badge, right? Mine's paper in a flimsy little thing. Dude's got it in his hand. I'm like, we're burned. We're done. Game over. He's like, this is for the wrong date. It's not Monday. I said, yes, it is. He said, oh, wait, you're right. You're right. Here you go. I don't know why it's not working. I'll let you in. Are you freaking kidding me? So that's bad enough. He lets me in only to an area that if you hadn't been in this building before, it's labyrinth-like. I mean, you could have gotten lost. So I went into their common area, sit down, finish my lunch, get up and walk around. Almost an hour and a half, I'm walking through this building. I sat at 5 different workstations and sent 3 emails from each one without anybody asking me anything. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said a word. A visitor, I still have my visitor's badge out. Well, yeah, unlocked. It was, and that's, we have a policy that says if you get up, lock your machine. But do you? Do we enforce that? Do we pay attention to it? No. And all it takes is one idiot like me to get through, your like, and I no offense to anybody that's worked in security. I've worked in security most of my life. But if you don't have a high school education and you can barely understand how to tie your shoes, what makes you think you're going to read, let alone follow a policy that people see a badge? They're not going to try to lie around a badge. You don't know me very well. But this is the stuff, right? I mean, we were literally able to walk right in, and after we did the physical part, we sat down and we did the network assessment, and literally could control the entire. I could have destroyed much. It would have been bad. Because there's no segmentation, there's no enclaving. They weren't even doing the basics right. So when we get into advanced defense, they were deers in the headlights. You know what I'm talking about. You feel that pain, right? Look, we all know that we're drinking from the fire hose. We all know that we are fighting the battle of insanity. We're doing the same thing every day, hoping that something's going to be different. And a lot of times that just comes simply from the workload. It comes simply from the pushback from management. It comes from the inability to truly make a difference because we're so busy just performing normal job duties and we don't have the money. Those are the two biggest things. Anybody want to add to that list? Those are the two biggest things I can think of that stop us from doing security properly. Silence is golden. Man, you guys are easy today. Not only getting around that management pushback and the money, but then to be able to take a step back and to look at that bigger picture. We're so usually focused on, well, that's not my job. I'm IT. I don't do HR. Or I'm HR. I don't have to worry about sales. Well, if we aren't understanding the entirety of the mixture in the pot, we don't necessarily know what we're cooking. If we don't know what we're cooking, it's liable to taste like crap. So you've got to understand what is important, what are you protecting, why do we all have jobs, where does that stuff live, how do we fix it, and then to put the controls as close around what's important as possible. Because, why do I really care if you're able to get access to a sales flyer, right? I don't need to protect that. But I am going to protect my HR records. Good example. So just understanding what's important and how to keep the people like me away from it, and then to engage people like me to make sure you're actually doing that, and if not, how to make it better. And even if so, how to make it better, because we all know the minute you find a way to stop me from doing something, I'm back in my lab trying to find a way around it. And if that's what I'm doing, what are the bad guys doing? They've likely already got a way around it, if not somebody inside that's helping. The regular assessments, I cannot stress this enough. Not only to evaluate yourself once a year, but to test yourself. To be involved in things like this that help you to look at what you're doing, what others are doing, and how, what's working, what's not, so that we can go back to our teams and say, let's try something different. Let's do something different. Because otherwise, we're going to sit here and we're going to hear the same tune over and over again. And it's obviously not working. We're able to keep our head above water, right? But don't we want to succeed? I want to be better. I don't want to sit here and, shoot, it's 2015, is that the right year? And we're still talking about SQL injection? Really? We've been doing RFID on doors for how long? Before my time. And we're still not implementing pins across the board. We're not adding that second layer of authentication to try to keep somebody. I can clone RFID cards from almost 2 feet away. But we're not doing these things. You got to be able to protect yourself. You got to be able to know who your enemy is before you're able to protect yourself. And more than that, to keep it simple, we don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars in IDS. I don't need you to go out and buy some shiny product. Oh my gosh, what? Yes, we have a vendor booth here, and no, I'm not trying to sell you anything. Except for improvement. Capitalizing on what you have. We have guards. Teach them. Get them involved. Give them a reason to reinvigorate their purpose for their job. Make them understand why it's so important that they truly do protect what we're hiring them to protect. Gates are great. Please, electrify them. I love to get shocked. Barbed wire is a wonderful thing, but make sure you put it on the right way. combining these things, the traditional defenses, with the evolution of the things that our friends, our partners are doing, is going to give us a better control over the perimeter, over the physical security that's protecting our data. And we're so blinded by the need for more firewall rules, the newest IDS. Man, I need to get a honeypot set up. But if you're letting people walk right in your front door with a dozen donuts, does that matter? We have to understand and get on a common playing field as an industry, as a community, about what we're really doing here, because it's upside down. I think I've had conversations with many of you sitting out there that we've talked exactly about this. It's upside down. And if we don't get the boat back upright, it's going to sink. We're already losing. The awareness program is huge. If you haven't seen the talk here, check online, because I know several of the recent conferences, the awareness program talks have been going over great. Improve yours, build one, make it happen, do it twice a year if you can, and reward your people for actually being involved. I actually got busted trying to break in as the AT&T guy. I don't know, a couple years ago now. It's been a while. But I pulled up in my Toyota rental car, and I thought that I'd given myself enough time, but I didn't pay attention to the fact that I was in view of the smokers area. So when my giant-sized self got out of this gleaming white car with a hard hat on, I go in to try to walk past the reception area, and just as I am, the smokers are coming back in like, hey, you phone guys don't drive Toyotas. No, you're right, they don't. Next time I need a minivan. So, getting people to think about those things are important. And I guess I'm out of time here, so we're going to go back. Some Sun Tzu stuff. Hey, if you can win without fighting, do it. Take the easy road so that you're able to put yourself beyond that defeat. I'd love to talk more about this strategy. I'm a huge Sun Tzu fan, and we are at war. Thanks a lot. Again, I am the Grape 8, Phil Grimes. Please check me out. Engage us on Twitter or email or something, or in person, or never mind, I'm going to go ride my bike now. Thanks so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. You guys have been great.